but I believe the great is still yet to come. I won't stop fighting, man, until...
Good morning and welcome to the 58th edition of the Breakfast Ball. I'm your host, Bob Cardia, and to my left, to your right, not the dashing Richie Stoltz, who's over behind the fence today. We're honored to have the head golf coach, head women's golf coach at Paul VI, Jamie Slonis. And before we start, Jamie, welcome.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Yes, of course. Jamie and I are of the same demographic. Actually, we played high school golf against one another back in the day.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. But as we were talking earlier, like the teams that we played on, we'd beat pretty much anybody nowadays, right?
I agree. Yeah, we had some good teams.
Yeah, real good teams. Yeah, I don't even know how many Division I golfers came out of that, but I know at least 5 added between your team and my team.
Probably, yeah.
At least,
yep.
Which is nuts for a high school team.
That's true.
Anyway, Jamie, since he's turned 55 years old, which is our demographic, he qualified for the U.S. Senior Am. He won the Senior Club Championship at both Tavistock and Pine Valley. And Pine Valley, as we know, is the number 1 golf course in the country. Also won the Senior Crump Cup. So Billy won the Crump Cup, you won the Senior Crump Cup. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and then the Senior Division Championship at Somerset Hills, right?
Correct. Yep.
That's, you know what, considering you just turned 55, that's like ridiculous.
It was a fun year.
Yeah, hey.
It was nice to be a rookie again.
Right, yeah. Meanwhile, I'm on the decline and you're cleaning it up. I love it. All right, well, question for you, and we talked about this briefly before the show. For those of you who don't know, I was the regional director, the site director for the LPGA's girls golf program for years, and I've had a lot of success with a lot of women players. And I was researching, the difference between coaching men and coaching women, and I saw this on an NCAA website where they talked about the psychology of coaching men versus women. And as we talked about, you hate to stereotype anything, but they did a whole quantitative study on the way men play. They basically say men start with effort. Effort yields performance, and then performance yields acceptance by the group. Whereas women, they bond. There's a degree of acceptance that leads to effort, that leads to performance. So I don't know if that's something you've noticed, or is that stereotypical? What have you found in coaching women's golf that might be different?
I could see that in those studies. What I found with the high school girls, it seems to be more of a social. Yes, it's competitive, but there is definitely a social component to it. Especially for like our younger girls, we get in the high school program, we get a lot of girls who haven't really played much golf.
Yeah.
So and there's only 6 people that play varsity. So
it's funny, it's the most underused scholarship in college. So for those, if you want your daughters to play golf, actually mine's a freshman at Cherry Hill East this year.
Oh,
so
nice.
She'll be playing. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it is what I found with practices and things. There is a big social component to it. Yes, we are competitive, but it seems like there is a togetherness with the girls, and a comfort in that group, and then there's competitiveness out of that. But
yeah, I think that's what the studies basically indicate, which is neat. I mean, I'm always looking for a different angle to motivate people. So like when I look at studies like that, I look at things like that, I just want to get your take on it. Because actually we have our staff meeting every Friday morning. So we had our staff meeting. Hey, Richie behind the fence back there, by the way. Governor Stoltz is working hard. The dashing Richie Stoltz, your name came up in conversation because our executive administrative assistant is Mary Haverly. So her son Aaron caddies at Tavistock, and he also plays at Paul VI. So she was actually commenting on what good things she heard about you.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, that you were like a true coach for the girls, which was.
I am. I got into it when my daughter started as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Our golf coach, it was Steve Saraki.
Yeah,
great teaching pro around. Who just he had a young family. He's very, very busy. He's a great coach, and he just didn't have time to do it. So when my daughter started at Paul VI, our AD kind of reached out and said, hey, do you know anybody that would want to coach? They had looked for months and months and couldn't find anybody. So they kind of reconnected with me in the wintertime. So we still don't have anybody. Would you consider doing it? And I figured since my daughter was going to be on the team, I would probably be around
4 years.
I was going to be driving her anyway. So
You're right. Might as well.
It was a way for me to. I've been around the game since I was a kid. I love it. So it was a way for me to kind of give back to the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed the time with the
Yeah,
girls.
that's great.
They've been great. They appreciate the help, and we have a good time. It's fun.
I get it. It's funny because as a golf teaching professional, I ended up being the president of Little League Baseball for a number of years, just 'cause my kids kept going through the programs and stuff. I love working with my kids. I wouldn't trade that. I mean, monetarily, it doesn't put money in the bank, but like, coming from a father who coached most of my kids' sports, I think it's really valuable that you're there for your kids.
It's time together that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I didn't want to be the cats in the cradle dad.
Right.
All right, so as I get older, I'm a grinder. You and I talked about short game all day long, and that's I go Pels' Bible all the time with my guys. Interesting. I found, and you mentioned it earlier before the show, like they interviewed Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson said he knows more and is a better boxer now than he was when he was 20-something. But only problem is you have the physical skills when you're 20-something. Right. It's rare for somebody to like a fine wine get better, but apparently you found the secret of how to do that. I found myself staying in the present is what I have to do. Realizing that with a couple fused vertebrae and the whole 9 yards, I can't do what I used to do, so stay in the now. But since you're doing so well, tell me, how do you get ready for a competitive round? And what do you do in round just to keep yourself in the moment?
So for competitive rounds, and if I know I have events coming up, I have certain things I work on during the weeks. I love to practice,
Which is helpful.
Which is nice, and we've got a great facility at the club on that, so I'm spoiled there. But I'll work certain things. I'll work a lot. I found over the years that there's certain things that lead to scoring well. Keeping the ball in play, hitting greens at regulation is huge.
Yeah.
I think it's
Number one scoring stat every tour.
It's far overlooked
Yep.
For the average golfer.
Yep.
And then short game as well, putting, getting the ball in the hole. But for rounds that are competitive, I just think I've done it so many times now and played, I've been competitive my whole life in college and after, that I now understand what it takes to score. Where when I was a kid, I just wanted to hit it far.
You bomb it, yeah.
Bomb it. In my scoring range when I was younger, I might have really good rounds, but I could have really high rounds too. Where I found now that I'm older, the range of scoring in tournaments is tightened up.
Yeah.
Where I don't have.
More consistent.
Yeah, I'm just more consistent. I'll have some really bad rounds here and there, but
Everybody does.
They're less than I did before. And I think it's just an understanding of how to play, how to score, more conservative.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped me, there was a book, I think it's Every Shot Matters, Every Shot Counts, that Mark Brody. They started with the PGA Tour statistics on the shot link data that kind of showed what good play was. And it was a little bit different than a lot of people had thought.
In fact, my oldest son, my second son because he caddies at your club, but my oldest son was captain at Rutgers. And, it's funny because people talk about distance and whatnot. He hits the ball ridiculous. Like his driving distance is legitimately like PGA Tour length. And he had more rounds of 75 or better than anyone I've ever had in my program who wasn't a regular starter. So when we went to the Nationals, top 5 go, I think he was 6 at that point. So he only started a handful of tournaments in his 4 years. And you look at his scorecards, and I have one like framed in a dollar store frame somewhere, where he had, and I forget the exact number, but let's say he had 5 birdies in a round, right? and you look at the end number, it was like 78. And like,
Right.
son,
How
how
do you
was,
do-
yeah, how was that possible?
Right.
And true, Colton, who I love my son to death, but like, he is a prototypical me, Colton, ball go far.
Yeah.
Like he's the kid. And if he thinks he can drive a green, he'll take out the driver, and it's great. 78 with 2 nines.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened? Oh, I put 2 out of bounds on both of those holes. Well, I tried to cut the corner. I'm like, no. Do you realize if you just hit a 5 iron there, son, like you probably would have shot 72? Yeah, but I could drive the green. Okay. I get it, and it's
The distance is important.
it's very
it's-
important. Yes.
Especially, I mean, nowadays, it's even more so.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, I play a bunch of competitive amateur tournaments and sometimes get paired with these young kids.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane how far they get it. And one thing kind of leading up to getting older and turning 50 and then 55 and playing some senior open stuff, I've worked really hard on maintaining speed
Yeah.
because I knew, I kind of saw when I was playing, I always could hit it pretty far.
Yeah.
But once you got
You were
late
always long and
40s,
lanky. I
50s,
remember that about you.
Yeah.
Did you used to wear a visor a lot too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember that from high school. You always had a
I had
visor.
a visor, and I used to wear the Hogan hat.
Yes,
in high
yes,
school.
yeah.
That was one of my trademark moves. If that's
See, I remember that. How many years
yeah.
ago? And I remember that. Yeah, that's crazy.
But I worked hard on maintaining kind of the speed and the physical fitness.
That's what
flexibility.
Mickelson said too. Yeah.
It's big because I see a lot of guys around my age, friends of mine, competitors, where you've seen their driving distance
Go down.
drop,
Yeah.
where I've been able to maintain it through the stack system, some different things and that's helped a lot in senior golf because I've gone from playing golf courses that are 7,000 or 7,000 plus to 6,500, 66 off the with senior
Yep.
group.
I
play,
have
so
those
it's a big
stats
advantage.
too. It's hitting a wedge into a green versus hitting a 700
Yeah,
to a
it's a-
green.
it's a
Yeah,
huge difference.
Huge difference. It's a huge advantage. Yeah.
Yep.
You just have to be smart, like as Richie always says, with great power comes great responsibility. Like
Yes.
you need to. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So I completely get that. So do you do anything in round? Like actually I per Mickelson winning the last major he won, breathing. Like I like if I start to get frustrated, I just start to slow the breathing down.
I do. Yeah, I've noticed that, especially like in some of the big events, like the Crump Cup and things, when, especially during the final, which I ended up going an extra hole. You can kind of feel yourself kind of tense, and when you tense, you hold your breath a lot. So
Yep.
I do. That is one thing I've worked on over the years. Is just taking a deep breath.
Yep.
I have a tendency to walk fast.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of scale
Slow
that
down.
back and slow it down a little bit,
That's
just
very
to
Ben
kind of
Hogan, by
slow
the
down
way.
the process.
Yeah.
And I like to play quick. I don't like to wait. But sometimes you can go a little bit too much with that. So I'll kind of back it off and try to slow everything down just a little bit.
I love that because I'm a golf geek. So Hogan would only drink ginger ale because of the calming properties on his hands, and he would get up earlier, he would walk slower, he'd breathe slower, and like I tried all of that, and I found it helped to a certain degree, but then when the pressure's on, it's difficult to do.
It is.
And then I read more studies about you have to be true to your own personality. Like if you are naturally a fast-moving person,
Without a doubt.
yeah, trying to slow yourself down doesn't always work.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Yes.
You can take it too far, and without, I've seen guys that are super fast. They'll go.
Yep.
But I've found for me, under like stressful or the end of term when I'm in contention, just to kind of dial it back just a little bit and it's hard to be aware of it
Yeah.
when you're in the in the midst of the battle.
Yeah.
But for me, that's kind of what I try to do.
I'm actually reading a book now. It was recommended for me called The Power of Now, which isn't necessarily a golf book, but it is about really you can't change anything that happened 10 seconds ago. And worrying about something that's going to happen 10 seconds from now is useless.
Yeah.
Just stay in that moment. Yeah.
Like another thing that kind of helps is, we talked a little bit before the show started. I've gotten the fortune to know Brad Faxon over the past few years, and had to spend some time with him. Got to play with him a couple times in some practice sessions. And one thing he speaks about is being able to kind of turn off your reaction to the outcome.
Yeah.
Acceptance of, especially on putts, short putts, long putt, it's going to go in or it's not going to go in.
Yep.
And he said, you almost try to not care about, which is, it's counterintuitive.
Right.
Like, of course you care,
Right.
but to be able to, I think, do your best, he thinks it's best to try to disassociate yourself from that. It's
Which
hard
when
to
you
do.
read it, like I don't know if you're like me, I read that, I'm like, you know what, that's right, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And then next thing you miss like a 3-footer, and you're like, what the? Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
It's like it's conceptually so easy, but it's hard.
It's very hard to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this. We talked about this briefly, I guess, last week. Ligo, right? That's Ligo. I'm saying it
Yes,
correctly.
Ligo.
That is the company that you're now representing.
Yes.
And basically, it's a way of being a member at multiple nice, private clubs, right?
Correct.
How does that work?
So Ligo, so I say we're a country club without a home, or we're a country club with many homes.
Okay.
So basically, the company was started over in the UK,
Okay.
over a decade ago now. There was a local professional there who was very social. He did a lot of tournament organization and things, and he found himself over the years, like a lot of people would ask him, hey, his name was Warren Pike.
Okay.
Warren, hey, can you get me on here? Can
Yeah.
you get me on to Wentworth?
Yeah.
Can you get me on here?
Yeah.
He lived around London.
Uh-huh.
And after a while, he's like, God, all these people, they're all members somewhere,
Yeah.
but they all want to go play these other places.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
he had an idea, can I start something? If he found 20 guys, sort of wealthy business guys that love golf. And he said, if I get 5 of these clubs we'll have access to, will you join what I'm?
Yeah.
And they said yes. So Ligo has grown from 5 clubs and 20 people in and around London to over 500 members in
Wow.
Europe and
Wow.
about 70 or 80 courses.
How about
throughout
the States? How we doing now?
the States, and so they brought it over to the States. The States a little tougher to kind of
Yeah.
get started, just
Yeah.
because
Big attraction.
it's that in the public private is different here in the U.S. than it is in the U.K. You can go to the U.K., you can go to Scotland, you can play Muirfield and
Yeah.
all the top private clubs. They
Yeah.
have guest days where our private is a little bit more private. So
Yes.
our high end,
Yeah.
like the very top courses, we're not going to get the Pine Valleys and
Yeah.
Marions. They
Yeah,
don't need
gotta
it.
get an
They're-
invite to play there.
Yeah, but a lot of these other courses, they have access.
Yeah.
They have tee times available.
Yeah.
And if you look at
I would imagine too that because there's been so many nice golf courses built in the past 25 years, that a lot of the courses that are lesser known, like Hidden Creek's known but not known, but like that's a very nice golf course.
Yep.
But if they're looking and the new one that's opened up in, I guess, in Millville,
Yes.
the Tiger, yeah. So I imagine if they want to get their name out there, they'd probably want to be a part of something like that.
I would think so. I mean, we've got throughout. So in the U.S., we're based kind of metropolitan New York City,
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey, down through Philadelphia, southeastern PA, Long Island,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have a handful of courses down in Florida for our guys that travel down there.
Which,
And they're all-
considering the weather, right? Like this is a golf hotbed. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you list like the nicest golf courses in the country, like this,
They're here.
Yeah, they're here. Yeah. Yeah.
So we do have, we're spoiled in that regard,
Yes, we are.
where we have an overflow of great golf. Though I argue with anybody, the best golf in the country
Yeah,
is
yeah,
metropolitan New York through Philly.
which is crazy because I play against a lot of the schools in the South, and like recruiting. I remember, and this is a number of years back, like a while ago, but one of the top players, high school players from New Jersey, wanted to go to Wake Forest, and he sent a video and like a VHS cassette, and he got like a 1-page letter back saying, if you're not from a state that plays 12 months a year, we don't really consider you. But
tough,
look where
yeah.
we live, though, man. Like, yeah, I know.
I know. So the way we operate is, so we have probably, I think we've got about 70 courses in and around our area through New Jersey, New York, Florida, like I mentioned. And we have a tee time or two a day at each place.
Nice.
So our members, a lot of our members are members somewhere else, and
Yeah.
they're just golf junkies that want to go play great places. And we do have in New York City, a lot of our business guys, Ligo's the only club they belong
Belong
to.
to, yeah.
One, because golf is so expensive around New York.
Right.
It's hard to get in. Clubs are full.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be stuck at one place. So
Right.
they join us and they can go play all these different places. So we do all that kind of day-to-day play. And then when COVID hit, we started doing these one-day member guests right after we reopened. So when everything shut down, a lot of the courses, they all lost a lot of income.
Yeah.
They lost all their charity outings.
Yeah.
So we were kind of smart, so we jumped in while we were closed. We called a lot of these places and said, hey, when we reopen, would you be willing to host an event?
Yeah.
Or just, we call them our guest days, or one
Yeah.
day. It's
Which
guys
is nice.
who
We were one of
entertain.
the first things that reopened too, which is nice
And
golf. Yeah.
We did that, and we were hugely successful doing it. And we went from doing like 2 or 3 prior to COVID a year. I think that summer we did like 23 of them.
Wow.
And we did at places like Plainfield and Somerset Hills. We did.
Where you were the
Wingfoot.
champion.
Yeah. Yes. And so now we call it the collection. We do these high-end one-day member guests. We did it at Sabonic, Friars Head, Maidstone, like all these really
So
top courses.
if someone wants to get involved in this, how do they reach you?
They can reach me, just Jamie at eligoclub.com. It's ELIGO. Or they can look, our website it's vague, eligo.com. You'll find some information there, but it's
I can
it's
tell you this.
purposely vague.
I just if you Google Jamie's name, Ligo comes up. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
no, we don't have a lot of information on the site just because
Yeah, it's
each of our relationships with each of the
I understand,
club
yeah.
is
correct. Yeah,
fly under
completely,
the radar.
correct. Yeah, I completely understand that. You know what I forgot to mention, but I better circle back.
Yeah.
But we're sitting at the lovely Valari's Lakeside Restaurant in Sicklerville, New Jersey. I shout out to the Abates, Nikki and Joe. They let us use the restaurant here.
Beautiful setting.
Yeah, it's great. The food's great too, by the way. And I also want to give a shout out. They catered unfortunately, my mother passed away last week, and that's why we did not, for the first time, and God knows how long, we didn't have a show last week. So, just if you could throw a few thoughts and prayers of my mother, that would be outstanding. Also, anyway, I don't want to end on a sad note. That's not the way I wanted to go.
No worries.
But to summarize, I guess what we're talking about, staying in the present, controlling your breathing, and how to motivate people too, the different ways and different ideas for motivation. All things that we talk about every week here on the Breakfast Ball. So, if you're one of the first 10 people to write "I love the Breakfast Ball" in our comment section, you go into a drawing. The same 3 guys win almost every week. You get a Starbucks gift card
Nice.
if you win. And as I always say, I say on a regular basis, if you get anything out of this program, when you're rich and famous, we get 10%. Just saying. Okay.
Well, that's good. I'll sign up for that.
Anyways, anything you want to throw in there at the end, or
No, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate what you've done for golf in South Jersey. I
thank
know
you.
You've been a staple of golf in South Jersey.
It's crazy, right?
You
Been
and
here
your dad.
45 years.
I remember
It's
your
crazy.
dad from when I was a kid
Yeah.
playing in junior
Yeah.
events. So.
He started actually the county tournament that we played at. He started the county tournaments.
Yeah.
It's funny when you get to be us. Like there's very few names that you know me, I know
It's a
you.
small community,
Yeah, it's a
right.
very small community. We're
We're a tight knit circle.
yes, yes we are. Yes we are. But I loved having you on, and
Thank you.
maybe when the majors come around again, and we'll have you back on. And we'll
Love to do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk golf.
Me too. God bless.
Appreciate
All right.
you having me.
Of course. And we're having actually Adam Bracey next week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
So,
I'll help
beautiful.
you blast.
Yeah, a little preview. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, like I said, 10% we're rich and famous. See you next week. Thank you.
Glass of bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha